Right. Hi, everyone. So I just dropped into the chat our running meeting notes. And so this will always have some useful links at the very top and the meeting agendas, as well as a place for folks to add any notes or just, yeah. So for folks who don't know me, my name is Shin. I am the network coordinator here at the Oregon Community Food Systems Network. And for this particular working group, the Community Food Systems at the Legislature, we have Eric Chi as our policy intern this season, as well as Meredith Knowles from Oregon Health Authority, who is helping us co-lead this group, as well as Megan Kemple from ORCAN. And before we get into content today, I just wanted to give a few quick network-wide updates, just a little bit of housekeeping. So some of you, or most of you on this call, should have received an email adding you to a new Google group, which is what we've been using as a listserv or email list called community@ocfsn.org. And this is going to replace the OCFSN full membership Google group that previously existed. I'm not erasing that at all, so people will still have access to all of that content, but I have restricted new posts. If you need access, you can click the little here button and add your email to the list so I can make sure that folks get onto the right mailing list, because I know the first time is always technology can be a little funny. And the next thing is just wanted to call out a few of the upcoming events. That's also a link to our website. And we try to keep the Oregon Food Systems events calendar up to date, including working group and other OCFSN hosted events and gatherings, as well as a lot of other food systems related events that are hosted by all of you and other member organizations. So one of the easy ways to keep that as an option on your calendar is to follow the instructions to, add that as a toggle onto your Google Calendar. And we have two events coming up in February. One is the Farming for the Future working group convening. Registrations have opened. Both Andrew and I will be there in person. So definitely get on the list for that. That will be taking place in Salem. And then February 8th, we will be doing a mini convening for this group again. And then what's not on here right now is in April, we will be having our first regional gathering of the year in Astoria in the North Coast. And we'll be co-hosting that with the North Coast Food Web. And so I will pass it over to Meredith and let her introduce herself and start walking us through what we have to cover today.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. It's nice to see you all. For those that haven't met me, my name is Meredith Knowles, and I am a nutrition and physical activity policy specialist at the Oregon Health Authority within the Public Health Division. I work in the health promotion and chronic disease prevention section, so that's where some of my specific kind of policy focus is. But I also work alongside folks in the Office of the Public Health Director under Healthier Together Oregon, the state health improvement plan. And that's where we have larger scale strategies related to nutrition security, but also supporting a resilient food system. And so I have been working a little bit with Lauren Gwynn over the last year or so with the State Partnership Improving Nutrition and Equity grant that OCFSN receives. And yeah, I have a policy focus at my work in public health, but also have a bit more of a broader food systems background that I'm trying to bring to public health. So decided to jump in and help co-facilitate this group, just having the kind of policy lens, important dates, kind of being able to navigate OLIS and policy analysis and all of that, but happy to be doing that alongside Shin and Eric and Megan. Megan, do you actually want to introduce yourself since you're on here and I know you sent me a note?
Sure, Megan Kimple. I'm the Director of Policy Advocacy for the Oregon Climate and Ag Network, and I've been involved with the OCFS policy working group efforts for years now and really engaged and just offered to help and support while Lauren is away as needed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So most of our time that we had put on the agenda for today was really just initial first impressions on bills that dropped. So the first round of them dropped on the 9th. I know OHA, we've been getting a slew of them every day since. And so yeah, we have 45 minutes, just what bills are priorities for you all. Any first impressions. We have 45 minutes dedicated to that discussion. A little bit later, Eric will be able to show us the bill matrix. The goal, I think, that we had talked about last time was to be able to collectively document all of the bills that members here are tracking. And so there's a really well-organized bill matrix. So we'll get to that towards the end, but I'll open it up. And what are people watching and looking at?
I can go first if that's helpful. So we have two bills that we're putting forward this 2023 session. One of them is, oh, Megan, do you have a question? Oh, okay. One of them is raw milk. So we are going to try and get the legislators to consider off-premise sales. So permitting sales in places like farmers markets, food hubs, and including delivery options of raw milk for license exempt dairies. And also removing the cow prohibition. So repealing the cow prohibition to kind of remove barriers to accessing insurance for small dairy farms. We've heard a lot of issues with farmers talking about not being able to get insurance, getting bumped off of their insurance, and just in general across the board, insurance has been a major issue for small dairy farmers. And the third thing in this bill is training access. So we're going to establish a platform to report on raw milk safety training, risk analysis, and testing standards for licensed dairies engaging in raw milk sales. So we have that bill number now. I can put stuff in the chat too. Is House Bill 2616. I'll throw the OLS info in the chat. And Rep. McLean is the chief sponsor on that bill. And then our second bill is expansion and enhancing the farm direct bill that was passed about 10 years ago. So we want to do an addition of online sales. So explicitly permitting the online sales of products that fall under the farm direct marketing law. And we want to modernize distribution. So allowing a third party entity for facilitation of the sale, marketing or delivery of products from the farm to consumer. So that's something what we might imagine like a food hub being. And then going over additional products, we're expanding the products eligible with farm direct exemption. We're working with OSU and partner to like expand that list and get kind of the food safety background on each item. We're dealing with that now. Clarifying ingredients. So there's been some ingredients that kind of have been sold in this gray area, for example, like teas that have been grown on property, and then consignment. So being able to have other farmers be able to have some products at the farmers market if they fall under the farm direct exempt. So I'll get you that bill number. So that's Senate Bill 507, and Senator Golden and Weber are the chief sponsors on that. And here is that. And we're going to have after I'm done talking, I'll put the two web pages that we have on our website that's going to be following, and I'll keep this up to date. So we'll have a kind of a play-by-play as the session goes on of where the bill's at, and then how we can get folks in our networks to help move stuff forward. So I'll stop there with those two because we have a lot of people on the call, but can also talk about stand up to factory farms. We have a tier 2 moratorium. We're watching some of the stuff that ORCAN's doing. So maybe some people on this call might be talking about some of the bills we're watching. So I will stop there.
We could share our ORCANs, if that's okay. With Oregon Climate and Ag Network, I'm going to put in the chat a document that lists our policy priorities with links to some information about them. And our priorities this session are probably, yes, our highest priority is to advance a healthy soils bill, which we have been working on drafting and getting and working with our chief sponsor, Rep. Helm, to get introduced. And I think most of you have heard about that, but if not, it's a bill to establish a soil health initiative at the state level with collaborating entities, including the Department of Ag and Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, which is a grant-making agency that provides funding for conservation programs, as well as Oregon State University, both extension to support outreach and education efforts, as well as the OSU College of Ag to support research in soil testing, and the soil and water conservation districts to support and work with OSU to provide outreach and education. So those are the areas, kind of the strategies that we're using: financial incentives, research, resources, outreach and education, as well as the agencies that are involved, and basically directs them to collaborate with each other and create some advisory roles and a roadmap for advancing soil health in Oregon, soil health practices on Oregon's farms and ranches. We're also advocating for the bill number there for the Healthy Soils Bill is 2998, House Bill 2998, and that was just dropped on Monday. And the other bill that we're advocating for is the Natural Climate Solutions Bill, Senate Bill 530, and that bill directs the state, declares that it's a policy of the state to advance carbon sequestration and storage on Oregon's natural and working lands. That's broader than just ag. It includes wetlands and forests, and it creates pretty significant, if funding is allocated, could create pretty significant pools of funding for advancing that work. So the two big pieces in that bill are declaring it's a policy of the state to do this work and directing agencies to prioritize it. And then secondly, providing a bunch of funding for them to do that work, which could be in the end distributed to land managers and farmers and ranchers. We're also advocating for funding, which is not associated with a bill, for the Department of Ag Soil Health Specialist position and for the Oregon Ag Heritage Programs, requests for 10 million plus this session. So we're supporting those two budget requests and really going to be advocating for all four of those priorities. We have time for questions, you think? These little updates, Meredith and Chin? Should we
Could you say what that second funding, please?
Can you say that again? There, you're freezing up. The second, I think you're asking about the second funding request was for OAHP, Oregon Ag Heritage Program.
And then Megan, were you saying, was there time for questions related to bill updates, or
I just wondered if we should say? Does anybody have questions, or if we should just cruise on through the updates?
I think that like the time is all yours. We have, the whole 45 minutes really set aside for this discussion. So I think ask questions for sure.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about ORCAN's priorities? Okay, thanks. I wonder if Greg or Nellie or Aaron want to share.
Hi, everybody. Greg Holmes, 1000 Friends of Oregon. We don't have an affirmative legislative package this year for working lands. We're focusing a lot on housing stuff. But a couple of the bills that have already been mentioned, especially that Megan just mentioned, the Senate Bill 530 and the House bill for the Healthy Soils Initiatives, are both going to be on our list of things that we're actively supporting. And I don't want to put her on the spot, but since she was just mentioned, Nellie, I don't know if you have anything else, but I was wondering if we know anything more about where that OHP funding request is going to land, because that's going to be a priority of ours too.
Sure. So Nellie McAdams, she, her, with Oregon Agricultural Trust. Funding for the Oregon Agricultural Heritage Plan is hopefully going to be brought to the legislature's attention in a couple different places. So we would hope that it would be part of the governor's budget. If it's not, then, and even if it is, we have a standalone bill. We don't have the LC for that yet. And so I don't have a bill number for that yet, but it is being, Rep. Owens is one who requested that bill. And we would expect that to probably come through the House Ag and Natural Resources Committee. So we're just trying to prepare just in case OAHP doesn't make it into the governor's request budget as a line item for the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board. Right now, there are 2 POPs that OWEB has requested, one for 10 million for grant funding and one for 0.8 million for administration of the program. And I think that's sort of the level of funding that we would be requesting in our bill as well.
Nellie, can you clarify? This is news to me. This is interesting about the bill option. So I'm not familiar with that strategy and curious about it. So is there any policy change in the bill? It's simply a bill as a holder for the funding request as a
backup. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a backup in case anything happens in the process of putting together the general budget. We would at least have this bill that we could bring forward for its own vote if necessary.
Okay. Interesting. Great.
We also have a really cool video that Cynthia and our team put together. I'll put that in the chat, but it is around some of the ways that Oregon Ag Heritage Program can support, especially with succession planning and land access for the next generation. So we're sharing that with legislators, and I'll put that in the chat here.
Is there anyone else who has anything on their radar that they want to share?
No, but go ahead.
I couldn't find my raise hand function fast enough, but hi all, my name's Mackenzie. I'm with Oregon Food Bank and just wanted to share kind of our priority legislation that I think a lot of folks already know about, but we'll be supporting the Food for All Oregonians campaign which is working to ensure that everyone in Oregon has access to food, no matter their immigration status. So essentially would be working to pass a state-funded program that would extend eligibility and benefit criteria that matches the SNAP program to populations that are currently excluded, which includes folks that are DACA or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival program recipients, COFA communities, which are the Compact of Free Association communities, some permanent residents, and a few other kind of immigrant or migrant groups. That bill is Senate Bill 610, and I will drop a ton of links in the chat, including a one-pager. We also have an organizational endorsement if folks are interested in that, and other individual ways to take action, like an individual pledge. And then we'll be hosting some community forums in the next month to share about the bill and continue to build kind of statewide support. But I know Sammy's on the call. Wanted to see, Sammy, if you wanted to add anything about Food for All. No, it's a really robust coalition that Oregon Food Bank is just one member of. And I think we have over 50 or 60, Sammy, correct me, organizations also in support, but always welcome new groups to the Food for All coalition. But I'll pause there and see, Sammy, if you want to add anything while I'm dropping links in the chat.
Thanks, Mackenzie. No, I think you summarized it really well. I just want to note that there are a lot of immigrant organizations that are not only in support of this bill, but are also in the steering committee and were heavily consulted during the development of the policy. We had statewide surveys and listening sessions that were conducted in 20 languages. And so I just want to note that because I hear that's been a common question. So yeah, and also happy to answer any questions folks have.
I wonder if Melina or Aaron want to share about any food corps or farm to school priorities.
Hi, everyone. Melina Barker, Oregon Farm to School and School Garden Network, she, her pronouns. I think I've shared with this group already that the network's working to support maintaining funding at 10.2 million for the Farm to School grant program. That's going to land in the Oregon Department of Education's budget, agency budget request, and probably some of it in the Department of Ags as well. And so, Nellie, that's interesting to hear your strategy with a backup bill. I didn't know about that either. But we're hoping that we're going to be successful that way. And so that's the network's priority that we're working on right now. And then Aaron and I are both, we were able to attend one meeting so far and both engaging in the universal school meals or school meals for all efforts as well. I don't know if anybody's on here from that leadership.
I didn't see Matt or Lisa. Yeah, I would just add that there has been a marker bill filed. So that's House Bill 30, the Universal School Meals bill. But it sounds like there's still sort of a lot of questions coming up from agencies and partners that they're trying to work on. So it may, likely not the final bill. We're keeping a close eye on it.
Melina and Aaron, if somehow you can let this group know when the time comes for the budget request advocacy for farm to school, that would be helpful. That's something that we've definitely supported in the past and will again if we know about it.
Thanks, Greg. I don't know if anybody knows, I just had my first policy working group meeting today, and folks were asking about advocating to the governor's office around the governor's budget. And with an incoming governor like this, has anyone done that already or can offer any advice around that?
Yeah, I think this, I don't remember if our last call was before or after. Well, it was after. So yeah, I think in early December, some of us were given the opportunity to provide direct input to the governor's office on natural resource agency budget requests. And so a bunch of us did provide kind of public comment and then maybe written comment to identify our priorities and make those requests through Department of Administrative Services, which was gathering the feedback and sharing it with the governor's team. I am not aware of a similar process for education or human resource agencies, but direct communication with the governor's office at this time would not be harmful. I did not think. I think it would be, especially, I'm just thinking about the fact that the governor-elect, well, Governor Kotek is was a very strong supporter of farm to school, and she will not forget that, I imagine, especially if her staff were reminded, because they may not know that. They are not her legislative staff.
Would doing a bit of outreach to the governor's staff be something, or making a plan to do so, that the other policy group that is non-legislative might be interested in trying to workshop a little bit in February? Because that seems like maybe where that could lie.
I think it would probably just come directly from Melina, that request from the farm to school director, and then the network would engage with the entire community around advocacy for the request, but not to the governor's office. I think we need to probably do a campaign.
Thank you. I know you are the expert on this, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Is Amy Long here? I don't see her.
Unless she's
Oh,
805.
Amy sent me a message. I don't think her phone is going through, but
Can you hear me?
Oh, there she is. 805.
Zoom had muted me, so I wasn't able to just unmute myself, and I figured it out. So yeah, I'm here. I'm happy to give an update on the bills that we have. Jonathan Manton, our lobbyist, is still going through them. So I just closed my computer, but one bill that I can tell you the number of, because Greg sent it to me last night, is House Bill 526 or Senate Bill 526. 526. I will make sure to update the legislative tracker with all of these, and that is our organic cost share state match and transition support bill. And we're looking to get a state match to match what the USDA gives for organic cost share to help give those farmers a boost, as well as potentially get some funds for transition support and education. So another bill that we're working on, especially with coalition partners, is protecting the Willamette Valley from increased canola acreage. And why this matters for everyone is that the Willamette Valley is one of the 5th best seed growing regions in the world, and other areas that have allowed canola in have lost the ability to grow many critical vegetable specialty seed crops. So this is really about food security. It's about the Pacific Northwest having the ability to grow seed for food security, and canola poses a very direct threat to that. So we have two bills, one in the House and one in the Senate, and Gelser Bluen is our champion, and this is wholly in the House. And so there were some issues with the draft that came back from Legislative Council that was pre-session filed. So we're waiting on the new versions, but we'll make sure to get this out to everyone. We're also going to be having a video that Resource Media is working on, as well as some other tools that will be coming out, and I'll make sure to share those. We also have asked for, in many years, and are doing so again, an organic specialist at ODA. We had worked with previous Director Taylor on getting language that hopefully would slot into their budget. So we'll see what happens with that, but have a standalone bill as well. And we're also seeking to expand technical assistance for all farmers through OSU's Center for Small Farms and Community Food Systems, the Organic Extension Program. And so that bill, we have a bill we're hoping to just be working with OSU through their resilience package, but kind of have a holder bill if we need to employ it. And we'll be supporting many of the other things that heard about on this call, budget advocacy, agency advocacy, et cetera. And we're always available to answer questions.
I hate to keep jumping in, but I did mention we don't have our own affirmative legislative package this time, but we are going through all of the bills that have been drafted or dropped so far, and we will continue to do that as more emerge, looking for anything that's related to land use planning. And we're starting to see a couple of things that might be threats to protections for farmland that are showing up. So I don't know what those are yet. I'm only aware of one specific. A couple of years ago, some of you helped advocate against a bill that allowed building large, basically mansions way far out in the eastern part of Oregon. On farmland, there's a modification to that bill that would make it easier to put it on higher quality farmland now, because I guess they're not getting enough being built in the places they wanted them or something. So I'll be watching for those, and I'll post as many of those as seem appropriate to the tracker, but we're still going through them. So I don't have details on those yet.
Is there anybody else who wants to give updates on bills that have dropped that they're following or advocating for? If not, I've got a little question about engagement for the group. Okay, Meredith. I think in our last, we all have, any of us who are advocating for bills as a significant part of our work are going to have opportunities for OCFSN members to engage through, contacting legislators, signing on to endorse, etc. And I think we talked about, and Shin, if you can help me with process a little bit here, I think we acknowledged that I know that I love to use OCFSN partners as a resource in terms of engaging and endorsing. And I know that it will be, we agreed in our last meeting, I think, that it would be too much noise for the entire OCFSN community listserv to get opportunities for engagement. And I think there are quite a lot of people actually on this listserv too, the CFS and the legislature listserv. And so I want to ask if we, most of us, a lot of us have kind of endorsement processes where that's an initial way for someone to show their support and then they will be engaged in campaigns. So, but I know that we're going to offer the OCFSN community the opportunity to engage, and then we were going to be responsible for those people who engaged with our campaigns, keeping them informed and not sending every single engagement opportunity out to the big list. And probably, I don't know, but the compromise could be too, that we use this list as kind of the engagement opportunity spot, but not the large list. I just want to think through process a little bit again and be reminded of what we decided about how to best, and people can best engage with the campaigns and take full advantage of our strong community. Thoughts about that?
Sorry, was someone?
That was me. I just said, any thoughts about that?
Okay. If I remember correctly, I believe we were going to try to pull together a kind of short list of where do people go to sign up. So then that's a piece of communication that it can get sent out to the full network. But I think in terms of things that are more time sensitive, I think that can be an agreement amongst either this particular email Google group or the opportunities Google group for folks to say, yes, we're happy to, use this email list in this format.
I think the opportunities group, since it's the skills and opportunities group, might be a good place for that. But
Yeah, and we can always send reminders for folks who don't use Google Groups very often on how to update their email subscription, because you can do it so that it's each email, a like condensed list that comes only like once a week or once a day. This way you're not constantly getting emails. And also I think historically across most of our Google Groups and email lists, it's never been an inundation of, I think people have been pretty judicious and respectful of taking up inbox space.
Yeah, there's one whole technical problem with that maybe, which is that some of us are not subscribed to that list because we aren't those people. We're CFS and the legislature folks and not engaging in the skill. So like I'm not even.
Oh, right, there was a
subscribed to that
specific
list.
split,
So I
right.
can't post to it probably. So I guess I could ask Eric to post to it or something.
Or we can just add you to that group. And you can just
Yeah, I
turn
don't
on
know.
your-
Yeah, I don't think I want to be doing that. So yeah, I'll have to figure that out. So we're saying maybe that we don't send policy opportunities out to the big OCFSN list, but that we primarily use the skills and engagement list or skills and opportunities list, because those are grassroots folks who are ready to engage, and then share with this list kind of higher level opportunities, maybe like endorsement at the original point, and then does that sound good?
Yeah,
I think that sounds good. What's the time? Are you thinking maybe a general timeline of what that would look like? Because I do think there would be a benefit to, at some point, maybe at the end of this, it might be too late at the end of this month to include some sort of policy overview of how folks can get engaged in the full network email.
Yeah, so the forum, maybe after the forum, a summary after the forum with links to who to contact if you missed it and want more info or whatever, after you've hopefully listened to the recording or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
great. Yeah, and
So
if
the
that-
timing,
yes.
yeah, I can kind of answer your question about timing. I think most of us who are working on bills are getting endorsements right now and getting our kind of supporters lined up, and I'm working on our materials, and then we're going to need engagement depending on if we have bills in February or March, and if we have funding requests kind of ongoing with the push near the end of session in kind of April, May, June, July. June, but the latest, but there's different timeframes for the bills and the funding requests in terms of the big pushes. But there's lots of the bill folks of us who have bills will have hearings in February and March.
So after that forum wouldn't be too late.
Nope.
Great.
It would be a little late for endorsements. So we may want to, but I don't think that, I think those folks are engaged with the policy efforts. Folks who would be endorsing would probably be on one of these two listservs. Getting in the weeds a little bit. We want to keep this high level. Sorry, let's go back out. Thank you.
Sorry, can you summarize? So there's two groups that we're sending the information out to, the policy, and what was the other one?
There's two policy committee work groups of
Yeah, so
CFSN
this is
right now,
one and then-
CFS and the legislature, and then another group that's kind of referred to as opportunities and skills. I think.
Okay, so we're using these two groups as the outlet for any information for calls to action and. Okay.
With the exception of hopefully a good post after the forum in February to the whole network so that folks know about all the bills and can engage if they aren't involved here. Thank you for talking that through. I think we might be done with the update section.
Yeah, I think so. And I can also just say from OHA's side, we're still sorting through quite a bit. It's looking like a lot of food related bills are coming through DHS, so it's just taking us a little bit longer to coordinate across the agencies. But I will be updating the bill matrix and making you all aware of those. Eric, is now a good time? Can we pull up the bill matrix and show folks how we're documenting all of this?
Yeah. So basically, very similar to previous years. Going to be using the bill matrix just to keep track of what type of legislative action it is. Is it a funding? Is it a budget? Or is it a regulation? What kind of topic is it about? Whether or not the member supports said action, and then just like the bill title and information about that, as well as who to contact about it. So nothing terribly new here. We do have some other tabs as well. So we have different tables for ally and partner priorities. I've added a lot of the PCUN ones. And we also have just unrelated to farming and food bills and legislative actions that our members support. So that is on the third page. And I also have a list of DIJ focused organizations that I'll be following to add those types of bills to the bill matrix, but I haven't started doing that yet. So those will be coming soon. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. And then this is something that everyone can access, right? And can populate themselves if new bills come up, right?
Yeah, so you can either just add the content yourself, or you can email the information to me and I'll get it on there eventually. So yeah.
Awesome. That's such a great tool. Thanks for pulling that together. Now, another thing that came up at the last meeting was making sure that, you know, everyone feels welcome in this group, regardless of your policy knowledge level or experience. And there's a lot of really awesome folks who have been doing this for a really long time and really know what they're talking about and have given incredible updates already and are able to really navigate legislative session, but want to fully acknowledge too that this can feel really really heady if this is like your first time or not your first time at all being involved in a legislative session, but wanted to put it out there and see if would there be any use or benefit for folks to do kind of like a legislation and legislative tools workshop that you could opt into, navigating OLIS, how to do a search, how to find where your bill is something like that, feeling like it would be relevant or helpful to try to schedule as like a breakout event from this. Not to put anyone on the spot either, that can come, you know, in the chat or an email later if that does become something that would be useful or for folks that you're working with.
Meredith, it occurs to me that I had some interest from Emily in that. It occurs to, she posted in the chat, yes, enthusiastically, and but I'm not hearing from anyone else. I'm wondering if it seems to me like a really great fit for this. I don't know, Eric, what's the name of the other group? Skills and
public policy, skills, and engagement opportunities.
Public policy. It seems like a really great fit for that group because that's a kind of orientation to how to engage in skills and.
Yeah, there had been talk at that meeting the last time, and I apologize, my internet doesn't really like having my camera on. That we would be looking at policy engagement outside of legislative engagement.
I see.
That said, though, I don't mind doing that as a workshop. like, I think that that is, and we're gonna send out a survey to see what skills people want. And so if you already have an idea for that breakout schedule or drafted, if you do want to email it to Eric or I, we can include that as a possibility and see if there's interest in that group. Because it might not be people who are interested in learning how to engage in the legislature. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. That's super helpful.
I think it might be helpful if we were able to invite other folks from our organizations to come. That might be a nice way to get the information out and get kind of everybody in your organization on the same page.
I agree. That would be helpful for our organization for ORCAN. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, then I can, what I can do is I can start working up just a draft of what that would look like, and I'll share that out. And maybe we can do a doodle poll and find a good time to schedule that workshop in, and that could be just completely open to the public members of your organizations, and you could kind of share it. You could be the leadership team to disseminate that and bring people in.
Thank you, Meredith.
And we can certainly, I think, just make sure that it's communicated to the other working group as well. Will be jointly advertised. I think we rolled through a lot of the agenda. Again, I think the huge priority today was just being able to share out and kind of talk through what people were already looking at. Is there anything else that is coming up for folks that you just want to highlight before we just talk about next dates and close out?
Can I ask a really random question about the convening on the 2nd and 3rd? Are we breaking out, like, because I know there's like subgroups, is it going to be kind of a brainstorm within the whole large group, or are we breaking out into subgroups? We're just trying to figure out like how many folks we need to send from our organization, and some of us are different subgroups and such. So just curious if you have that answer.
I just want to make sure too that people aren't confused that this is just a farming for the future convening that you're asking about, not policy. So
I can provide a little bit of context there. Yeah. Farming for the Future working group is working with the organizations, a part of the network, who are focused at doing service provision to farmers. Lots of folks like Brittany at Friends of Family Farmers, Megan are part of that, who are deep in the legislature and have bills and stuff. So we are, there's some obvious crossover between these groups. That being said, policy working group folks are invited, but this is a different working groups gathering. But to answer your question really quickly, Brittany, we are going to be breaking off into subgroups. And I had an email exchange with Alice, and she kind of shared. Yeah, great.
So the next dates that we have on the calendar for this group, we have the policy forum mini convening on February 8th. We have our next working group meeting on February 22nd. And it sounds like we'll be doing kind of like a high level intro to legislative tools training in between then and now. Does this group feel like we need to meet, meeting with those 2 dates in mind, is that enough? How do people feel about the cadence that we had settled on last time, meeting once a month?
This is Megan. I think once a month is great, and we already have another meeting with the forum. So more than that in February would be a lot for many of us. And then also if any of us engage in the legislative kind of oriented training skills session. So that's feeling really good to me, and I don't need more than that. Oh, these others. Great. What do others think? Once a month, we could do just thumbs up once a month, or concerned face. Not sure.
Okay. Looking like pretty good thumbs up. All right, we'll keep all those dates. Shin, Eric, anything else from our agenda that I'm missing, or just other comments from anyone else? Kenzie.
Curious if we had time, I don't know, or Brittany, if you wanted to stay on after, I'd be very curious to hear about the Stand Up to Factory Farms update, just as a personal interest, but happy to wait on after.
I think that's worth an update on this call. It's really relevant to OCFSN, and it's a bill that is of interest for
Yeah,
members.
I just put the kind of fact sheet, if you will, in the chat. Yeah, so it's going to be an all animal tier 2 moratorium this time. If people remember last time, it was a mega dairy moratorium, and so now we are adding all factory farms. That was from a result of, I don't know if folks have heard about the SIO. There was a big chicken factory coming in SIO. We've had a lot of obvious backlash to that. So we have changed it, and it is a tier 2, which is kind of the largest of the large. I'd have to, I don't want to quote any numbers, but I could get, if folks want to know what the tier 2 levels are, there is, we go on the ODA permitting fee structure for the tier 2. So that will be going through. I don't have the bill number at this point. But it seems to be pretty well supported, and folks are really excited about it this time. So time will tell. But again, the fact sheet's in the chat.
All right, well, I think we can give everyone back 6 minutes. And just a quick note, the January newsletter will be going out tomorrow, so look out for that. We'll be introducing our new leadership team. Have a great rest of your day, y'all. I'll see you in February.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.